Here's a 1998 12 valve. Only doing this video here because this problem that came in was one that was very difficult to troubleshoot, and I overlooked some fundamentals. Couldn't find anything, and even some of the guys that work on these all the time were stumped. So basically I got a 1998 12 valve. So this is the same body that the 24 valves came in. So this is that Frankenstein year. So it's got a mechanical fuel pump. We look down in there. We've got a mechanical fuel pump. We put a heater delete on it and put in a Larry B fuel pressure gauge, and then switched out the fuel filter here. This is by Pure Diesel Power, just to make it easier to change the fuel filter. So the symptoms or the complaint on this one was very low idle fuel pressure and very low wide open fuel pressure. So generally that's going to be some sort of issue with fuel delivery. So in this one, again, there's a lift pump, mechanical lift pump on the block. Now the issue was it would run very poorly, and if not even run at all, also with just an obscene amount of air in the lines, which was the supply line had some issues. So we replaced that. You can kind of see that down in there. So the supply line now goes straight into the mechanical lift pump, deleting the heater and a new hose. And I didn't go all the way back, I just replaced the parts that were bad. But here's why there's a video. So this year has this style in-tank fuel module. It's the four plug. Now this style is the one that's for the 99 and later, which has a fuel pump inside of it. Now there's a kind of already took this apart. We're on this T. There's a few issues here. Number one, so this vehicle had an in-tank fuel pump and a fuel pump on the block. Now, although the factory wiring harness had the 4 wires to it, the power was a dead wire because the fuel pump relay, the electronics for it, aren't even in place. So kind of tracing all this back into here, that's where that would go, but there's no wiring in there for this. So you really can't run both. Now for the folks that are upgrading their fuel systems, they're going to bypass the mechanical or remove the mechanical lift pump and then put something on inline to draw fuel. But there's a problem. Problem is, if you leave everything inside, you're going to have the problem that I had, which was you can't draw fuel. So to quickly kind of isolate if it was a tank issue, what I did was I ran the truck off of this 5-gallon container of diesel fuel. I had the old module here, put a hose in it, stuck this inside, and then put this in the quick connect. Once I did that, the mechanical lift pump was over 10 pounds at idle, or yeah, about 10 pounds at idle, can get it up to about 20, and was idling and starting perfectly. So then that was how I knew that there was an issue with this. I wasn't smart enough to realize that I was looking down in there and looking at the fuel pump that was inside the tank. So now here's a 94 to 97 module, and this is a 6-wire, even though only 2 wires are used. And these 2 wires are for the sending unit for the fuel pressure, for the fuel gauge. Now here's the problem. The problem is the upper and lower bounds on this are, I want to say 10 and 100, where this is 20 and 220. And what I mean by that is the ohm resistance. So if I were to take this, here's a Harbor Freighter. This is all you need. And by the way, this is how you can check if your fuel level gauge is working. Okay, so that is empty at 6, and then full at about 100, which is here about 110. Well, the gauge in the truck is not designed to run on those ranges. The gauge in the truck is designed to run for this one, which is 20 and 220. So although what I did was I hooked this old one in, which didn't have a fuel pump inside to make it run, my fuel gauge was wrong. So I needed to have this one to work. Now what you could do is get the Air Dog draw straw, and it uses this unused port, and then it just draws directly. But what I did was I removed the in-tank fuel pump, which was a little tricky. I didn't want to destroy this little retainer because I want to be able to put that retainer back in. And then I got a 3/4 inch, 3/8 inch, sorry, 3/8 inch fuel line. This is a submersible fuel line. So the submersible fuel line, basically you're looking for that SAE 30R10. What's ridiculous is if you buy this on a store, this 1 foot section was $30. You could order it for much less. So now I have a direct fuel line, and then I took the bottom draw straw, you can kind of see from the older unit, and that's because I wanted to put in a little strainer. You don't have to do that because your fuel filter will deal with it, but nonetheless the issue was this. Now there's another piece to this whole puzzle that explains why this whole thing doesn't work, and I've already fixed it here. You'll have to take my word for it. On this T here, I don't know where it is anymore, on this T, which looked kind of like this, and then there was another piece to it. Oh, here it is. This right here, there's a check valve in there. So the wonderful thing is you'll be fighting yourself. So this piece kind of went in like this. This went in here, and then the nylon or plastic hose that went in there went there, and then another piece went in to the fuel pump. Well, there's a check valve in here. It's not designed to pull through when you put in a fuel line. It's designed for this pump to push through. So that's what this check valve is. And then interestingly enough, if you look at that, which is why all you guys are upgrading your fuel systems, look at how small that is. you're not going to get much fuel volume on something like that. So what I did was, and what you can do, and I think AirDog has a video out there for installing the draw straw, which just allows it to come in straight through here. And there's a whole configuration. You can just see that video. It just deletes this and bypasses, and they recommend just having a hose go all the way down. But I wanted to do it this way because I wanted to put a strainer, and then I didn't want to have issues with it not being able to draw fuel unless the tank was full. So anyway, so that's the setup right there. And then if you decide to do it this way, just make sure that you're not having any issues here when you push this thing and get it compressed. So there it is. This took a lot of hours to figure out. Basically, the check valve in here prevents you from drawing fuel or using the mechanical lift pump. So I don't know how this ever worked, other than that the original module probably had a different style check valve, and I didn't check that because the original issue was it just wasn't working, and I wasn't smart enough to look at that. Also doing some tests, it was hard to draw through this fuel pump. Now another thing that I did too, if you're having these issues, is I put power on that lead that was dead and just ran off of the in-tank fuel pump, and realized that I wasn't having any issues when that happened. So there it is. Short version is, if you've got a 98 Frankenstein and you're trying to figure out some fuel delivery issues or low fuel pressure, just bypass this whole system, run it out of a tank, just a container of diesel fuel, however you want to do it. And if it's running really good, you know you've got an issue there. If you pull out your module and you see that you've got this inside and you've got the original check valve in there, then that's where your issue is. You can do what I did here, or you can just order that AirDog system. Thoroughbred Diesel has a link on their site for fixing that, with putting in another draw straw here. And I believe on the one video the guy even shows you how to do what I did. I wish I would have seen that earlier, but again, wasn't smart enough to see that was the issue. But there it is. That's how you can troubleshoot a 12 valve 1998 12 valve that has a mechanical lift pump on the side of the block and a fuel pump inside the tank. So you can't have both, so it's going to be one or the other. So if you're going to do one or the other, or if you're going to put an inline fuel system, you're still going to need to deal with the in-tank fuel pump if this is the style that you have. If you have this style, which is the 94 to 97, then you shouldn't have any issues. And then if you're troubleshooting your fuel gauge, if it's a 94 to 97, the range is going to be 10 to 110. Resistance, if it's 98 and newer, it's going to be that 220 to 220, which is what this would read if I were to put the ohms on it. So there it is. Thank you.